Hey, I want to speak in this video about the European, uh, no, not the European anything, the Eurovision Song Contest. Just a mix up in the words there because I was looking at various EU bodies a minute ago. So, yeah, I did say that I try and make more upbeat, optimistic videos, and I would like to think that overall this is a more upbeat, optimistic video because in the end of the day, it's about an event that is supposed to be fun. And in my opinion, most of the time it is. Um, so if you're outside Europe, you may not be familiar with what this is, although actually this event is organized by the European Broadcasting Union, which despite the name is not actually directly linked to the European Union, but it was set up in 1950 and is sort of an agreement between broadcasters in numerous European states and beyond. I believe it is also available in North America, South America, and in China. Um, so in recent Eurovision events, they've actually been welcoming the Chinese viewers, which I think shows the scale of the event. It is almost certainly the world's largest music competition and certainly one of the most viewed. Um, in the UK, we've sort of had a, guess you could call it a love-hate relationship with the Eurovision Song Contest. I have to say, I'm not someone who usually gets into music contests. I mean, in the UK, we have X Factor and Britain's Got Talent, and I've got little interest in those shows because I think sometimes they're mean spirited and I don't like the format of it. I feel sometimes that they let people through that just so they can laugh at them and so the audience can jeer at them and so on. I really don't like it. By contrast, the Eurovision is mostly light-hearted. Win, lose, or draw, it seems, well, there is no drawing, but win or lose, it seems that everyone has a good time at Eurovision, and I like that. I think in a world where there's so much war, so much chaos, so much human rights abuses, etc., etc., it's good to have events like this that are just everyone can let their hair down. Of course, there's a competitive side to it, and of course, a lot of people do take it quite seriously, especially the competitors. And I imagine for smaller countries, there are quite big stakes in winning, a bit like the Olympic Games in that sense. But I think we should ultimately see it as an entertaining event. So I'm going to speak a little bit about the how the voting system works because this is something that confuses people, and even I am not 100% sure about this. So I'm just looking at this is from the official Eurovision webpage, and in English it says the voting. How does it work? Well, basically, I'll give you the background first so that my international viewers outside Europe can understand what this is about. Basically, the Eurovision Song Contest involves singers or groups from most of, but not all, the European Union countries and a number of countries outside the European Union as well, but generally countries within the Eurosphere. There are a few countries that are technically not Europe. Israel has entered for a long time, and this year Australia also entered. Obviously, Australia is a very long way from Europe. Um, and Russia has also been entering for a number of years. So whether you consider Russia Europe or not is a matter of debate. Just look at the world map there. I would not be surprised if in a few years some North African countries start to enter, provided that is they get political stability. So I wouldn't be surprised if Morocco and Algeria, which have had relative political stability for a while, if they maybe enter at some point. But anyway, the Eurovision Song Contest, the way it works is each year it will be held in a certain city, and that city is determined by the winner of the last contest. So in other words, let's say for the sake of argument, you have Italian winner. Then the following year it will be held in Rome or Naples or Milan. So it sort of rotates around depending on who wins. It's an old competition. This year actually marked the 60th anniversary. This year it was held in Vienna on the grounds that last year the winner was from Austria. And last year's winner was one of the most prominent of all, Conchita Wurst. And he was prominent for being she was prominent for being a transgender person, and that got a lot of attention. The woman with the beard, it sort of was a big thing at the time. Um, Now, just like the Olympics, the Eurovision is intended to bring people together and intended to bring countries together But just like the Olympics, it's almost impossible to avoid the politics, which is a pity, but it's definitely a side effect. This was quite obvious last year because there were political overtones of the Russia-Ukraine crisis going on. This year, indeed, Ukraine did not take part because of the ongoing situation in that country. Sometimes that has been the situation. Some countries haven't taken part either because they've been in a state of unrest or because they haven't been able to afford it. The UK has always taken part. I don't think there's a single year that we haven't. One reason for that is we are one of the countries, the so-called Big Four, that fund this competition, along with Germany, France, and Spain. Um, so that's the basic idea of how the Eurovision Song Contest works. Now, the voting system is quite complex. I'm not going to read this in detail. I'll put this below as a link. But basically, it's no easy process. You have as many as 115 million people watching this competition from across Europe. That's only an estimation. And bear in mind, each country, there's going to be potentially, if not hundreds of thousands, then millions of people watching. Now, in recent years, you could vote for whoever you think is the winner. And incidentally, the big catch is you cannot vote for your own country. Um, so if I think the UK is the best, I can't vote for it because of my country. But you vote for whichever country you think is the best. And then they add up a certain number of points. So at the end of the night, and this is a big part of the fun, incidentally, they go to each capital city and say, and then the presenter says these are the results of the Moldovan jury, of the Spanish jury, of the Lithuanian jury, and so on. Usually, the number of countries voting are more than the number of countries taking part. Um, so altogether, it's quite a long process. The whole event, the whole broadcast takes about 3.5 hours. But it is fun. It's a fun event, and it only happens once a year every May. Um, anyway, again, back to the voting. The way it works is there is a public vote is added together, and then there is independent monitors to check that it's all done fairly. Um, and 50% of the vote actually comes from a professional jury. Now, when they first entered this, although it's controversial today, it has to be said, when the European Broadcasting Union first introduced this idea of getting a professional jury made up of, i.e., singers, songwriters, radio presenters, in other words, people who know about the music industry, to judge the contestants on a wide range of factors, it actually received positive feedback. So, although it's controversial today to some extent, um, it did receive positive feedback when it was first used, I believe, about 8 years ago. So that's how it works basically. 50% comes from the public vote, so that is people sending a text message. It's very cheap, it's like 16 pence. And then it says, congratulations, and the person will be whoever is the national presenter of the show. In the case of the UK, it's Graham Norton, who is actually an Irish comedian, but he's a popular presenter, and he took over from the equally popular Terry Wogan, who was also from Ireland, incidentally. But anyway, they sort of greet you and they said, "Thank you for phoning. You have voted for Hungary or for Germany," and then it's like a 10-second sort of text response, and then they add all this together, and then the juries are added together. Then they announce the results of each national jury. I'm not sure how they determine the order of that, but basically the points add up. It's a bit like Olympic medals, I guess. Again, they add up, and naturally there is some national pride involved. I wouldn't necessarily say nationalism, that's quite a strong word, but there is national pride involved, and obviously everyone likes to see their country win. Um, so, who has been the winners? Well, this year it was Sweden, and the winner from Sweden was a guy called Mans Zemmerlo, and his song was Heroes. It's quite an upbeat song. He had quite good graphics. The use of graphics, incidentally, has been more and more used in recent years. I didn't vote for him, but I don't begrudge him winning. I think he was a good singer. Um, this year, I actually voted for three countries. I voted for Hungary because I quite liked the message they were sending out, Romania, and I forget the other country I voted for. But anyway, those are the three countries I voted for. Now, there's a sort of in-joke in the Eurovision Song Contest, at least in the UK, that countries have a habit of voting for their neighbours. So because people can't vote for their own country, they'll vote for their neighbour. So Germany will vote for Austria, Moldova will vote for Ukraine, etc. That's sort of a stereotype. It's not always the case, but it does tend to be a trend, which is why they had to change the rules a little bit. Some winners stand out more than others. The very famous Swedish group ABBA actually got their big breakthrough on the Eurovision Song Contest 1974 with Waterloo. They're probably the most famous entries ever on the Eurovision. A curious thing is that countries don't necessarily have big superstars to represent them. I mean, in the UK, for many years we have had virtual unknowns as our representatives, and some people have criticised that because the UK is obviously a big musical country. So maybe if we entered more famous people, we would get more points. On the points, I'm going to give you a very quick analysis of the sort of winners. The very first competition was held in 1956, and that was the winner was Lise Asia of Switzerland. Um, Now, in some years, when smaller countries have won, they haven't necessarily hosted it. So the following year, it was Germany hosted it in Frankfurt. Anyway, some years stand out more than others. 1969, there were four winners: Spain, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and France. One of the most successful winners has been Ireland. For a small country, they've done extremely well. Um, in fact, they have the record. They have won seven times: 1970, 1980, 87, 92, 93, 94, and 96. Now, in the 90s, there was a sort of joke that Ireland was winning so many times that they were deliberately trying to lose. And if you've ever seen the comedy Father Ted, they have a bit of an in gag on that, where Father Ted and Father Dougal, it's a comedy, incidentally, about Irish priests living in a remote island. They enter the Eurovision Song Contest with a crappy song, and they try well, it's a pretty funny episode actually if you've ever seen that series. Um, so Ireland's won seven times. Sweden's the next most successful country, six times, including this year. They last won in 2012. They also won 1999, 1991, 84, and 74. Now, the next up, France, Luxembourg, and the United Kingdom. We've all won five times each. The UK has won in 1967, 1969, 1976, 1981, and 1997. The last time we won was with Love Shine a Light, Katrina and the Waves. Um, the Katrina and the Waves was the performer. And I have to admit, without any bias, that was one of my favorite Eurovision songs. I felt it was a very feel-good song. I really enjoyed it. Um, then four times, the Netherlands has won four times. Three times has been Israel, Norway, and Denmark. Two times Spain, Switzerland, Italy, and Germany, and Austria. And then the following countries have all won once: Monaco, Belgium, Yugoslavia, as it then was, Estonia, Latvia, Turkey, Ukraine, Greece, Finland, Serbia, Russia, and Azerbaijan. Um, and each country has a presentation. Some, to me, stand out more than others. I have to say, Austria, Vienna, I don't think their show was particularly exceptional, given it was the 60th anniversary. I didn't think it particularly stood out as a show. When we last hosted, it was Birmingham, 1998, and we had a sort of stereotypical British performance. We had a marching band and so on. It was okay. Um, One of the best shows ever was Russia, 2010. I thought they'd done a really impressive opening show. Um, some of the songs that stand out for me, well, Alexander Rybak with Fairy Tale in 2009. He won for Norway that year. Um, I understand he was one of the most successful winners ever. I believe he got the highest score of any Eurovision winner ever, 387 points. Um, and actually, this year's winner, Man Zimmerlo of Sweden, has the second highest at 365. So the Scandinavian countries, actually, third highest, I should say, because the second highest was another Swedish singer, Loreen, with Euphoria. She won in Baku in 2012 with 372 points. Um, so, the point system obviously determines how well the countries are doing. As this show has expanded, then countries have got more and more points, obviously, and it's become a much bigger event. Um, One thing I will say, a lot of British people complain about this and say, "Oh, why do we bother entering? We're not going to win." Well, to my countrymen and women, my message is this, it's a competition. We cannot win every time. We just can't. Now, I do believe that we should have done better this year. We came fifth from bottom. I believe we had a catchy tune. I like the whole concept of a sort of jazzy 1920s style, kind of reminding me of the Great Gatsby or something. I am disappointed. I feel we should have got higher than fifth from bottom, but we didn't come bottom. I mean, it's better I fought for Austria. They were the host nation and they got 0 points. But I will say, when people complain like, "Oh, we never win," firstly, it's not true. We've won 5 times, and secondly, it's a competition. We can't win every time. You know what? Because if we won every time, then the other countries would say, "Wait a second, this is rigged. Why are they winning all the time?" So people don't seem to understand that you take part. Yes, it would be nice to win, but you take part for the fun as well. I mean, in the end of the day, the Eurovision is a big laugh as far as I'm concerned. It's I think it does more or less do what it sets out to achieve. And I really don't think that the winning, I think people who take the winning issue very seriously need to reflect a little bit because really this show, obviously it would be nice if your country wins. But in the end of the day, the show is about bringing nations together, and that is the main issue. And one thing that I've always liked about the Eurovision is the fact that, generally speaking, there is a good environment. There isn't hostility between the nations. There isn't. I'm not saying it never happens, but most of the time it's good spirited. Um, and that can't be said about some other competitions. So overall, I like the Eurovision. I think it's a good thing. I think in a world with all the problems that this world has, it's good to have an event that just distracts us from that for a while. Um, so yeah, I'm a fan of the Eurovision, and I will continue watching it whether we win or we don't win, because the fact of the matter is we've won 5 times. It's only a matter of time before we win again. Incidentally, we are the country that has a record for coming second place most. So, no one can say the UK hasn't done well in the Eurovision over the years because we have. When you consider all the countries that take part. Anyway, to my international viewers, i.e., outside Europe, if you have any questions about the Eurovision Song Contest, feel free to ask me. If you're another European, how do you feel about the Eurovision Song Contest? How did you feel about this year's event? Who did you vote for? Were you happy with the winner? I mean, what I would say is I never begrudge any winner. I wish them all the best because that's, the whole point is it's meant to be an event for bringing people together. So even if I get disappointed by the winner, I never begrudge the winner their big win. So this guy, I didn't vote for him, but I think I'm okay with him being in the winning spot. I think he was one of the better ones. So yeah. Um, Sometimes it's the case that people in the country don't necessarily like their own singer. I remember when Lena won for Germany in 2010 with Satellite. A number of Germans didn't like her winning because I said congratulations to one of my German friends, and she says, "No, Nathan, please don't congratulate. We can't stand her." Well, I think she was not speaking for everyone in Germany, but still. So that's the Eurovision Song Contest. If you don't know anything about it, check out a video, type in Eurovision, a million different results will come up. Like I say, it's a huge contest. Some of the entries are downright weird, and I think that is one of the appeals of the Eurovision, the quirkiness and the strangeness of it. Um, you get kind of lovey-dovey songs, you get weird songs. You get certainly things that are original. And I believe it was 2006, there was a Finnish heavy metal band called Lordi that won. That definitely stood out. So that's the Eurovision. Okay, thank you for watching.